good afternoon or morning or evening or whatever it is where you're listening to this. But I'm Paul Carruthers from MotoAmerica, and this is Off Track, our weekly podcast. I'm joined today by a couple of Sean's. Actually, just talking off air. I was saying Sean, and neither of them knew who I was talking to. So I'm going to call Sean Bice from this point on, and I'm going to call Sean Dylan Kelly Sean, and we'll see if we can get through this without too many mistakes. But how are you today, Bice?
I'm doing pretty well, especially happy to be talking to another Sean. You know, it's funny when I hear somebody or see somebody whose name is that the name can be spelled so many different ways that I get a especially high level of delight when somebody actually spells their name the right way of Sean, which is the way Sean Dylan Kelly spells his name, and it's the true Gaelic spelling, the Gaelic version of the name John. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk to another Sean. I got to tell you, when I was a kid growing up, I can only remember that there was like one person, Sean Connery, who had my name, and I would try to tell my teachers it's like Sean Connery because they could never pronounce my name. It used to drive me nuts. And when we have Sean Kelly on here, I'm going to ask him if people have trouble pronouncing his name, but there are a few more of us out there nowadays that it's not too bad. But the thing I like that he's done is my dad. Well, my last name is Bice, Bice. It's four letters. My first name is Sean, Sean, four letters. So my dad decided, in his infinite wisdom, that he wanted to have a middle name of four letters too. And I thought maybe I would have been a Sean Patrick or something like that. But he said, well, I wanted to call you something with four letters like Sean Paul, but it sounded too Catholic. And we're Methodists, and my dad was actually a minister for a while. So it's not that has anything against Catholics, but I guess he was afraid I was going to sound like a pope or whatever. So he came up with, and we were talking about this earlier today, my middle name is Pery, which is the weirdest name ever.
Wow. So why didn't he could have just gone with Jack? That's four letters.
That would have been pretty good. I guess, yeah, I don't know
So
what it was about the P.
Peru or Perry?
It's Perry. Yeah, Peri, Perry. It's pronounced just like if it was like Perry Melnichuk's first name. But in fact, if Perry would have been Pery or Peri, I would have been probably an even bigger fan of him back in the two-stroke days. But yeah, I mean,
So
it's
I'm,
just
I'm
kind
going
of,
to start calling you Sean Perry Bice.
well, that's the thing. I used to kind of go by that, and then it got shortened, and people used to call me Sean P all the time, and it was because my name was so short that
This is catchy.
so yeah,
Yeah.
so it occurred to me. I'm like thinking, I wonder if that's why Sean Dylan Kelly uses his middle name. So let's bring him in, and these burning questions I need to get answers to. So
Yeah, there is quite a lot. Hey, well, first of all, thank you for having me on.
Oh, thanks for joining us. I know it was a little bit last minute, and you've obviously been pretty busy. You're just back from finishing second in the Daytona 200, which is quite
Absolutely.
an accomplishment. And you became the youngest ever pole sitter for that race at 16 years old. So, yeah, we're pumped to have you. We're pumped to have you in our series this coming season. And you're obviously a kid with a bright future, and we're glad you're at least going to share some of that with Moto America. So it'll be a cool season, and we look forward to talking to you about it here for the next 40 minutes or so. So do you want to start a little bit by talking about Daytona? I mean, it was obviously, I don't know if you went there with high expectations of doing as well as you did, or if it was a surprise.
Well, I mean, absolutely, starting first with how, in general, how everything went, it was really good. And also about what you said, the comment of joining the series this year. Also super excited to get on with you guys and coming finally to actually race in the States for the first time, I guess I could say. And really just going into the weekend, it's more of a long week because we did the first test with the team Tuesday and Wednesday in Jennings, and we hadn't tested all of the preseason. So we just immediately did 2 days at Jennings, and then we did Thursday straight to Daytona, and then Friday got to work there. So honestly, I think that's what really made the step up. And I went into the week with no expectations really. I just know that I had a really good team. I knew that I had the bike that I had, and I knew that I had a really strong teammate. I had Bobby. So I just went in. I had a new crew chief. I knew some of the mechanics there because I had worked with the team already a little bit last year. And I was just excited to get started, man. I was just so excited to finally get back on a bike. I hadn't gotten on a big bike since last October. So I was just excited to ride again, to be honest. And already the test in Jennings had gone really well. We did those 2 days, and Bobby and I were both running strong. We were just working well. We were doing strong lap time. So I think the momentum just carried in from those 2 days to the test, and it just carried into the weekend really. We just got straight to work. Obviously I had the bike already sort of set up. I was feeling comfortable. And was I expecting the pole position on Friday? Not at all. I was not expecting that. But it just felt good, and when it was moment to give a little extra, it was just there. So I think that's still my highlight of the weekend of getting that pole position, and especially becoming the youngest. It was super exciting for me and for my team, and especially for my family. So and then the race, we all know that was a whole different story. But man, it was definitely a fun weekend, and I think just about the best way I could have started the my first real weekend with the team.
Sean, you mentioned October. You were in Daytona. You raced at Daytona in October on that bike, didn't you?
Yeah, I raced the team challenge. I did it all by myself, which is also like about 55 laps. So it was pretty much a training
Wow.
session for the 200. At the time, it was with a team. It was with the same bike, but it was the Harry Kiwi Bespoke bike, which is kind of like the third bike that they had sponsored at the time. And this sort of came in through Robertino Pietri, because he was gonna do that, and he pretty much, last minute he had something come up, and he just said, "Hey man, I can't do it. Do you want to jump on it?" I'm like, "Oh man, of course." So, everything really really does start from Robertino. He's a super great friend of mine, and just a super good supporter as well. So everything started from there. Really is just got jump on that bike, and then it went pretty well in October there too. So
Was that the
that's
first time you raced at Daytona
yeah, it was.
in October? Wow. So you had essentially a 55 lap stint, and then you did a 57 lap Daytona 200. Of course, there was practice in between that, but you really haven't had a whole ton of laps at Daytona then, and that's an unusual track. So tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, correct. I mean, a lot of people are they're like, "Oh man, it's only his second time at Daytona," and at Daytona there really isn't that much track time either. It's just October. It was, I think, two practice sessions and then straight to 55 laps. And I mean, in a 55 lap race, yeah, it's a pretty good amount of laps, but you can't really be inventing too much in a race. You can't be trying too many different stuff or risking too much either. And in October, Jake Lewis was running the team challenge as well, so it wasn't like I was just alone. But now from that moment until the test this last weekend, I didn't jump on a 600 at all. I didn't even get on a big track at all. So definitely that was the most exciting part, just getting back on a big track. And it was really noticeable, like I mentioned earlier, the test. Because I think the second session I had on Friday this last weekend, I already ran my best lap time as October last year. So it was just much easier to get up to speed, and then from there it was like again just carrying that momentum. But for sure it was noticeable to get that riding on last week.
As for the race itself, you went a lap down with I don't know entirely, but it looked like some sort of issue with the pit stop. But so you go a lap down, you come out, and you find yourself racing with those guys again at the front. Um, were you thinking ahead enough to think, okay, this thing could be reflagged and I need to get my lap back, or were you just like, you know what, these guys are my speed, I'm going to race with them?
Well, this was actually, a lot of we see on the social media. It's been going pretty crazy about, people talking of the 200, the red flag, saying that it shouldn't have been restarted. The typical talk. Everyone's talking about it, but on the bright side, they are talking about the race, so that's something good. But regarding, me, a lot of people again were talking bad about me, saying that I shouldn't have been racing with the front guys. But in a pre-race meeting that we had, they clearly mentioned, whatever happens, I have to try and stay on the lead lap. Whatever happens, doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter if I'm 3 laps down, 1 lap down, or 2 second, whatever it is, I have to try and stay on the lead lap. And it just turns out that, we had a problem in the pit stop. I lost two minutes in there. And when I got back out a lap later, I was running with Bobby and Pash. And I was like, man, I know these guys don't know I'm running a lap down, but I know I'm a lap down. So I really just tried to stick, up front as much as I could. I knew I couldn't open a gap from them, but I was just trying to be up front. And if it came to the moment where it was the white flag and I had to help my teammate, of course I was going to have to do it. But that wasn't the case. There was still a handful of laps left, and I was just trying to run my race really. The first thing I told myself when I got out of the pits, I knew I lost a lot of time, but I just told myself don't give up and just keep on running. And I keep on running fast laps and just kept on doing my thing. So at the end of the day, that's what saved my race, and that's what got me my podium.
Yeah, I mean, we thought that Paul and I were actually communicating back and forth during the race, and we were commenting on the fact that you were a lap down, but we actually thought maybe there was some strategy involved there to help your teammate a little bit. Obviously M4 Team Hammer is a solid team, and teamwork's pretty important to them. It certainly didn't occur to me that a red flag could happen at that point, but you had mentioned the fact that there was some, you probably could have helped Bobby. Did you get the sense, especially at that track, that idea of drafting and running together can pull two guys up closer to the front? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. Coming from the rookies, like definitely knew what it was to be running with groups and what it was to slipstream and all that stuff, and or draft, as you guys say. um, and really at Daytona, it's 10 times more. The whole drafting game is everything. So, um, talking about how it was with Bobby, I didn't really know how it was going to go to the end of, at the end of the race. In fact, actually, when the red flag came out, I didn't know what the rules were for 200 either. So since I was used to the typical of, I think it's past two-thirds, the red flag is just considered done. So when I saw the red
Right.
flag, I was just bummed out. I was like, oh man, red flag. I just finished like sixth or something. I was like, darn it, we kind of lost the race. But when I got back into the pits, the team were like rushing. I'm like, why are they rushing? They're like, we might restart. I'm like, oh man, all right. So and that was just the moment that I had passed both of them, and I had passed the finish line or the red flag in first, or not in first, but in front of the two guys. So I was technically on the lead lap. So I was just really, really happy that I got that opportunity. And again, it was just because I didn't give up at the time. I could have easily just stick back. I did at one point think, should I leave these guys do their own thing? But team orders are team orders. If they tell me to stay on the lead lap, I'm going to try my best to stay on the lead lap. So um, again, we didn't get to the end to the point where I had to help my teammate, but definitely I would have if I would have needed to.
Well, let's go back a little bit because it's funny. I was thinking about this morning. The first time I heard your name was, I guess, would have been for the 2015 KTM RC Cup World Finals, because we'd sent a couple of riders over there, and then I think that one was at Silverstone, and
Yeah.
and you did really well, and you were riding for Mexico, and I kept thinking to myself, man, that's the most interesting Hispanic name I've ever heard of. I'm like, there must have been some Irish Hispanic mix up there, with the family
Oh,
and all that to allow this to happen. And then obviously I found out that you raced in Mexico because they allowed you to do so at a younger age than what we allowed. But that was pretty much a breakthrough for you as far as like at least American fans knowing more who you were, because you had such a successful World Finals. You finished second overall, and I know you won a race. So was that like the beginning for you, or what felt like the beginning?
well, yeah. Well, first of all, oh man, you have no idea how many people thought I was Mexican after that. That was
Right.
annoying, dude. Oh man, it was, nonstop, everyone thinking that it was. But at the end of the day, it was, good for me saying that no, I was American. After people would ask, I was like, no, I was American, and I was able to be up there. Was it unfortunate that I had to run that I couldn't run my American flag? Yeah, of course. I would have liked to have that on my chest, but at the end of the day, if I couldn't run here, then I just couldn't. I just wasn't old enough. So rules are rules. But also, talking about this whole, how it went from that, I definitely think that was, like the first step into sort of my more professional side of my career. Mexico, they gave me the opportunity, I won the championship there. And then when they gave the opportunity to go to the world finals, that was really, my first big thing. And it was my first international race. It was my first time really going anywhere. So I was just super excited to get that opportunity. And winning that first race there was just a whole nother dream. It was a whole nother thing, again, just something that wasn't really in my vision, but it happened. So finishing second there and just winning my first ever international race was a whole nother level too. And it just turns out, that the selection event for the Rookies Cup was 2 weeks after that. So I definitely think that winning the first race there had something to do with, how they looked at me at the selection event. Um, a lot of, obviously the selection event for the Rookies Cup, everything comes into play. Not only how fast you are, not only how you look or how you move on the bike or how you appear outside of everything or how you speak. It's everything. So I definitely think that this race had a little influence on the selection event. But really, once I got into the Rookies Cup, that my first ever time there in selection event, everything just switched. It was pretty much a turn on switch for my family, and a lot of things have changed from that point on. So just it's been a really long journey, that's for sure.
Sean, it's interesting because I didn't realize until you mentioned about Mexico. Now we know Alex Dumas because he was too young for our RC Cup race. He raced for a year in Mexico. Was that after you? Do you know Alex at all?
I'm pretty sure we spoke with Alex and we got him the contact to go race to Mexico.
I wondered if that was it. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't, I was like still young at the time, so I don't think I directly spoke with him, but it was my dad speaking to Alex's dad about it. And then that was the year I got into the Rookies Cup. So that was the year I went to Europe. He went to Mexico. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we did help out with that connection. And then it's pretty funny because, everything just kind of like leads into its own way. Now, he's running the SV with Suzuki, and I'm in M4 Suzuki. So everything's kind of like going into it together. So it's pretty cool. That's for sure.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Now you've spent a lot of time in Europe. I mean, sometimes when I'm talking to you, you even sound like you're a little European. But
he's got a Latino accent, I think. Yeah, what's that all about?
Oh man, I'm a mix. I'm everything. I don't know what I am anymore. I don't know if I'm American. I don't know if I'm Mexican, Argentinian, Irish. I have no clue. No, my parents, both of my parents are Argentinian, so I do have that Latino in me. But now coming from Spain 3 years, I have a good mix of Spanish in there too. So it's a good mix, but yes, my parents are Argentinian. They moved here over 20 years ago, so that's why I was born here and just raised American.
How in the hell do you end up being Sean Dylan Kelly with that background?
Right.
Dude, my parents are cool, man. My parents are cool.
They sound like it.
Oh yeah, big time. They know what they were doing.
That's funny.
Yeah. No, actually, my dad's name is Thomas Patrick Kelly, and he's Argentinian, so that's also something to wonder about.
Wow.
Yeah,
So it goes
no,
back
I'm
way.
pretty sure it's like, yeah, way back. Just we're like a little speck of Irish, that's for sure. Because you can't get any more Irish than Patrick Kelly.
Yeah, and it's funny too, Sean, because so Sean Dylan Kelly, who Argentina you mentioned, so Renzo Ferreira, who we know is from Brazil. When we talk to him, the kid sounds like he lives in New Jersey. He sounds like he's just a regular American. He sounds less ethnic than you do. Have you ever met Renzo?
No, I don't think so, actually.
You'll see him this year. He races. He raced in Junior Cup. Like I said, he's from Brazil, but you wouldn't know by talking to him. He races with Quarterly Racing a little bit. He did last year. I don't think he is this year again. But at any rate, it's just kind of funny how the name doesn't necessarily give away where the person's from.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I mean, also, I'm a Miami boy, so there's a mix over here. There's everything
Right
here, big time.
So how did you? I see from looking at your background. I mean, you did a lot of supermoto riding when you were a real little kid. How did the motorsports thing come around? Because I don't think your dad was involved in it at all. Before you, right?
No, that's right. Most kids do get into racing because of their parents, but my parents were not into it at all. They were just, normal people, normal people working every day in normal hours. But I think I was just born with something in my blood, really. Since I was a little kid, since I was 1, 2, 3 years old, I was always, with toys, with cars, with motorcycles. I would want to take pictures with everything I saw. So when I was 3 years old, I was already riding a bicycle with no training wheels. So I guess it was just something that I got into from the moment I was born. And then when I was 5, I told my parents that I wanted to try go-kart, and we went to Opelika, which is the nearest outdoor little track we have here, and they didn't let me ride a go-kart because I wasn't old enough. But just in front of the rentals for the go-karts, they had a little motorcycle warehouse, and there was a little pocket bike there. And we spoke with the guy that was working there, and he was like, "Hey, if you want to get into go-kart racing, it's pretty expensive. I mean, not that motorcycle racing isn't, but a little bit more than what we do." And they just said, if he wants to try a little pocket bike, he can try it today. So don't ask me how my parents let me at 5 years old try a pocket bike on a track, but it happened. And from that moment, it just clicked, man. I just, I imagine me, little 5-year-old me, my long hair over there, just having fun on a little pocket bike. And from then on, it was just, I got hooked into it. We found a little motorcycle. My dad built up a little Pee Wee 80 for me, and it just started from there. We just started doing local races, and from then on, everything is upwards and onwards.
The PW80 you were talking about that your dad made, did he make it into a road racer, or did you do off road with it, or motocross?
He did put motard tires
Oh,
into it.
so
So yeah,
supermoto, like Paul said. Okay,
e- e-
gotcha.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, getting started and going through what you had to go through to learn how to do all this, I mean, that comes easier when you do have parents or whatever that have some experience. How did you have anybody that helped you, or did you just have to figure it all out on your own?
Honestly, it was just the teamwork of me and my dad. It was really us,
Wow.
just climbing and just, getting, a little information from everywhere we can, from the people we know. Obviously, at the end of the day, you start meeting people that know and all like this. But I never had, a signature person or a signature coach or anything like this. It was just really getting the speckle of everyone, and it was just us two with our little van and just going to all the races we could, and step by step, really doing everything. So definitely, my dad is the one that's made all this possible, because also it was just him. You know, he was the one driving 20 hours and every single weekend. So definitely hats off to him.
Yeah, he must have been a proud man on Saturday night at Daytona then.
Oh yeah, big time. And luckily, my parents, both of my parents were able to be there. My sister was able to come down from Georgia, and we had some other family friends. So it was really, really nice to have them there. And it feels good, really, to see everyone happy and just everyone celebrating there. It's been a while since we were all together like that.
Did the success you had at Daytona, does that, I mean, is that going to translate to, like, do you feel like you got a lot more confidence going into Road Atlanta than you would have if the Daytona thing hadn't happened?
I'm gonna be honest with you, it does. It does definitely help. Before even the test had happened, even with the test itself, it would have helped. But just going, before the test, it was like, I had ridden their 600 once or twice, but I didn't really know what to expect. I haven't really ridden with any track like the MotoAmerica series. I hadn't really ridden with any guys from MotoAmerica, so I didn't really know exactly, how I would just get into it, and how I would directly be from the start. So um did the test and the Daytona help? Yeah, absolutely. Now I think I know a little bit more of what to expect, and it doesn't change, of my plans. It doesn't change of how I'm gonna work. I'm still gonna keep on working in the same exact direction that I was, training just as much or more, and just keep on working with the team exactly how we have been. I think I just have to keep on staying with this mindset and just keep on rowing forward.
Well, you're certainly with a really great team. There's no doubt about that. One of the things that I couldn't believe, and this is not taking anything away from you, Sean, but Bobby was on provisional pole, then you got the pole. I mean, the place is crawling with Yamaha R6s, of course, as you'd expect. But you guys were super fast on those two bikes. My gosh, those Suzuki GSX-R 600s have a lot of speed, and it seems to foretell good things to come for this season, and picking up right where Valentin Debice left off with, and maybe even doing better with him with being up at the front. Is that what you're hoping for? And do you know from the team if did they find a little something more in that bike this year, or is it just you guys? What's going on there?
Well, I mean, first of all, I was also myself impressed with how good the Suzuki's were running. I mean, yeah, like, people always say, no, the Suzukis have this and this compared to the Yamahas or this and this, but man, already directly in Jennings, we were running really competitive lap times, and it was like, holy crap, these things are really good, and I was just feeling super comfortable, and obviously, that has to do with how the team works. My crew chief was super good, and I know, in general, just everyone that's working on the bikes here are really professional, and they really know what they're doing. So, do I know if they found something compared to last year? I really don't know. I wouldn't be able to say, but that we were strong enough to be up there, that's for sure. And again, this does already start from Jennings. We were just already doing really solid work there, and then at Daytona, saying that we were both 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 the whole weekend, that was really strong. So I think we should be pretty proud of everyone on the team for the work that they've been doing, and that we're up there. And now, just going into the season, I think it's really good for the team, and it's really good for me, for Bobby, just in general for everyone, knowing that we can be up there. And I guess we'll just see how we can take the season.
Now, there's some disadvantage to how well you did, because
Yeah.
you show up at Road Atlanta now, and you can't just kind of sneak in the back door and nobody know who you are. Now you go to Road Atlanta, and there's like, oh, we know who this kid is, and we know what he can do. And suddenly there's, they might think a little differently about you, and the sneaking up part is probably completely gone out the window.
I mean, yeah, I agree with what you say, but I guess the sneaking in, I already did it this past weekend, so I was gonna have to do it eventually.
That's true.
No, but like you say, yeah. At the same time, I still don't have any more or any less pressure. The pressure that I have is directly from myself. It's just doing my, really any proving that I have to do is really just to myself. I don't really feel like I have to do it to anyone else. So, does this, change a little bit? Of course, the result does change how I look into the season. So, but at the end of the day, we're just me and my team. I still feel the same way as I did before. So, we're still gonna try and win. So we'll try our best.
Now, at the end of last season, you did the test at Barber. Is that other than the riding the day at Barber, have you ridden on any of our tracks at all, or is it going to be your first time everywhere we go?
That Barber was the only MotoAmerica track that I've done, and it was just one, pretty much not even a full day. It was half a day, and I had just got off a flight, and got off the last Rookies Cup race, so it was like a whole mixture of things for that day. But yeah, Barber is the only track that I've ridden. All the other ones will be a surprise. And it's funny, I've been explaining this to a lot of people the last weekend, is just now where I learned all the European tracks, I'm gonna come here and learn all the American tracks. So it's like, man, I'll never really settle anywhere. But hey, I guess that's good, And talking about learning tracks and stuff, I think coming from Europe and coming from the Rookies Cup, I had to learn all the tracks the first year of my Rookies Cup, and that was very, very difficult. So I think I have a pretty good work in the adaptive side of me. So we'll try and make it as quick as possible. Some weekends there isn't too much time on Friday for the practice or whatever, but we'll try. And we'll see from there how it goes.
I wanted to ask you something specific about Rookies Cup, and this may have changed from when they used to run the 125 two-strokes to what they're doing now in that series. But so, of course, it's a level playing field. It's spec racing, but we've heard from different riders, and we've talked to a number of riders that have, obviously JD, Jake Gagne, Cameron Bobier, Matthew Skoltz, and I'm not going to name any of them specifically, but we've heard that it isn't always a level playing field. So much depends on your mechanic. And I don't know if that's still the case as it was in the two-stroke days when they were dealing with jetting and all that. But what's your reaction to that? Is it truly fair? I guess a good way
Yeah,
to
no,
put it.
no, no. It's that's really like the first question that I get from everyone asking about the Rookies Cup. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it's as fair as it can get. We were even running the same tire pressures. We changed the tires. Everyone is running always the same tires, same tire pressures, same gasoline. I mean, everything is really, really as similar as it can get. Do you see that there's sometimes a little bit more um how can you put it, a little bit more energy going into one rider or another? Yeah, you can see it.
Right.
Sometimes, Dorna does prefer certain flags. Dorna does prefer certain riders, but I guess it's always going to happen. It's just the reality. That's always going to be there. But does that change that certain bikes are faster or certain bikes are slower? I really don't think so. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm saying that from me this year being the heaviest rider and me suffering this year in the straights. But the bikes are the same. So in the turns, they're all the same thing. So no excuses on that side. And really, props to the Rookies Cup for really doing the best jobs on that side, because you don't see this type of racing anywhere else, and you don't see this type of support anywhere else. So definitely can't say anything about that.
As far as what you're looking for in the future, are you looking to do as well as you can in Moto America and then leave to go to Moto 3 or Moto 2, or now is your goals to maybe go into Moto America Superbike? Where do you stand with that at this point?
Honestly, it's hard to say for me right now. I don't want to leave the European scene because I've spent 3 years there and I've built good relationships. I still have a lot of interest over there. Me over there and also people from over there to me. So I don't want to just sort of leave there as if nothing would have ever happened. But at the same time, I've gotten such a good opportunity here that, I guess we'll just see how everything grows. And, I just have to focus on what we're at right now. I have already 2 years signed for M4 Suzuki. So we're going to keep on this direction. And at the end of the day, we'll see what the future holds.
We've talked to Garrett Gerloff a couple times and talked about Garrett a little bit and the fact that he's becoming fluent in Spanish for a couple of reasons. Sean, I'm sure you must be fluent in your well, maybe you're more fluent in that. I don't know. You're pretty fluent in English. I know that, but you clearly can speak Spanish. And does that help you over there? Have you found that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Knowing Spanish was the best thing that could have happened to me, because English and Spanish are obviously the two most common languages, and in the paddock, it's the only two things that are spoken pretty much. So, for me, my first, well, just the 3 years really, just going around and being able to speak to teams and starting to speak in Spanish, and then when they would ask me where I'm from to say American, everyone was surprised. So that was a pretty good first step into the paddock. And I know that, a lot of Americans that have or that are in Europe right now, they do struggle with, communicating. And I think that's one of the most important things, right now in the motorcycle world. Just getting contacts, knowing people and speaking is really one of the most important things. So that was definitely a huge, huge thing for me over there.
Mm-hmm. Have you worked with a rider coach, or do you plan to at any point? I mean, I know your dad's helped you. I didn't hear or get a sense that you've had, formal training from a coach, but maybe you have, or you're planning to. Can you tell us what you're thinking on that realm?
To be honest, the only real coach, riding coach that I've had to this point was Jorge Lorenzo's father.
Oh yeah,
I did
he
have
worked with Benny Solis quite a bit too, didn't he?
correct. We sort of had the same training at the same time. So Benny and I did sort of do trainings at the same time with Chicho, with Jorge Lorenzo's dad. And this was for a couple years. This was a couple years of a lot of training, and I definitely believe that he is a good reason that I am in the technical aspect. I am who I am. Then it is also a combination of things. It's not just one thing or another, but he did definitely help in some aspect. And, we stopped working for a couple years ago now because, he went his route, I went my route. But when it comes to the future, I really don't know. It's hard to say about rider coaches, it's not going bad for me right now, but neither have I had the opportunity to have, like a certain track day bike. I haven't really been able to have my own bike to go to big tracks and train. So, really up to this point for the last years is just, whenever I raced is whenever I was on a big bike and a big track. So,
Well, I was even wondering with
yeah.
Chris Ulrich because Chris himself is a rider coach. So has he started to do any of that, or do you think he will during the season a little bit?
No, yeah, absolutely. The team does everything, absolutely everything they can to get any little information out. And in fact, Chris in the barber test, which was my first ever time with them, with the team, it was Chris was out there the whole day with me, and he was helping me out with just about anything he could. So it's very noticeable, the information that they have, and uh, from that moment, we've already been working in the same direction, and I know that it'll continue like that for the throughout the season. So that's definitely a plus one.
How close is your bike setup to your teammate Bobby Fong?
That's a good question. Um, we in the Jennings test, I know that we sort of worked in the same direction. We didn't really, go different routes, or at least not too much. But when it comes to right now, how the bike is set up, I'm not too sure. Like I said, I know that, throughout like what information he got, what information I got throughout, the riding, the laps and stuff, that we were sort of working in the same direction, which is really, really good for us and for the team, especially for the rest of the season. But I don't think our bikes are set up too differently right now. I think maybe the only thing would be weight difference, but there's not much weight difference between us two. So I don't think there's much of a difference.
Yeah, in fact, I used to think of you as being a small rider, but to your point, you've grown a lot. You must be taller than Bobby now, aren't you?
I think I am. Yeah, I think I am.
A little
I've
bit,
grown a
yeah.
lot I've grown a lot lately, and I'm pretty glad I'm on a 600 now.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Honestly, I am because like I mentioned earlier, this last year I was the heaviest rider on the in the Rookies Cup, and oh
Wow.
man, it was really noticeable. And with those things that are spec 250s and they aren't really that powerful, it was very noticeable. So I'm definitely glad I'm on a powerful Suzuki right now.
Now, I've been looking obviously at your Instagram and other social media. I can tell you do a lot of training and some of the stuff you do looks, it's pretty impressive, the things you are doing. And for somebody who's 16 years old to be willing to work as hard as you are, I think that says a lot about you. Is it something you enjoy?
Oh, absolutely. I really do enjoy it. I really do enjoy what I do, and I take this right now, the most serious I've ever taken it. And I feel like, it's just like constant growing. I feel like this last year is where I really made, some little change in my mindset. And we've been living, it was just me and my dad living out in Spain. We were living in a little town in the middle of nowhere pretty much. And it was just me and my complete dedication to training every single day. I would cycle every day for 4 or 5 hours by myself. I would ride by myself. I would, completely just go out there and do my thing every single day of the week. So that really like changed my way of doing of being really. And I didn't think I would be able to enjoy it so much. I think it's at the end of the day, it's the balance. Neither am I like 100%, always doing it. I find my free time and I find my way of getting out of it when you have to. And it's really just the balance because man, I really do find it very enjoyable to just at the end of the day, it's just how you see yourself improving. So um I just try and work as much as I can and just try and get faster and faster really.
So two questions for you, Sean. So you're 16. The first question I have, and I'll ask you the second one after, so you can answer them both together. Do you have a driver's license right now? And is your dad going to be with you coming to all the rounds since you are only 16?
So talking about the driver's license, I got it maybe a month or two ago, and it's probably the worst thing that could have happened to me. I've been driving so much, man. I've been driving so much, but No, it was the worst and the best thing that could have happened because my now that we're back in the States, we got a little van, my dad and I, and I've just been grabbing my bike, putting it up there, and just going to wherever I can. And I have a really good place a couple hours away, so I've been doing quite a lot of hours of driving already, but it's good to not have to interfere with my dad all the time. Up to this point, he's been the one 100% completely on me everywhere, wherever I had to go. Obviously, he had to come with me. He's been, well, he still is everything. He's still my mechanic. He's still my just everything. So, but it's nice to have this freedom of, okay, mom, you have to work, dad, you have to work, then, I can do my thing. So it's definitely nice to have this freedom, I guess we can say, and still work, and not have to depend on anyone. It's definitely really good. Um, but talking about my dad in the series, hopefully I can have my parents in all of the rounds. I don't think they'll be able to just because of money. It's not the cheapest thing to be flying around and stuff like this. So obviously they're gonna try and make it to all the rounds, but I don't know if it's gonna be possible. I really hope so.
All right, guys, I think that's probably a pretty good stopping point. I want to remind everybody out there that our live streaming MotoAmerica Live Plus, we only have 11 days or less actually by the time you hear this to get the good deal on the MotoAmerica Live Plus. It's going to stream all of our races. You'll be able to see Sean Dylan Kelly. You might even get a glimpse of Sean Bice.
I hope
Um,
not.
wandering around the podium. He won't actually be standing on the podium, but he kind of wanders around there a little bit, in dreamland, hoping that he could someday get to the top step of the podium. But so
Stalker.
make sure you guys, get your subscriptions in line and save yourself a bit of money before the season actually starts. And obviously, we'd also like to see as many of you as we can at our events. So if you're in the Atlanta area, we would love to have you come out to the lovely little town of Brazelton and romp around in the red Georgia clay with us and watch some good motorcycle racing. So we hope to see you all soon. For those of you who listen to the podcast, please continue to do so. Give us some good likes and put your notifications on so that you can find out exactly when the show is available on a Saturday. And Sean, thank you for. Oh no, you're both going to answer now. So Bice, thank you for helping out as always. And Sean Dylan Kelly, I appreciate you coming on. You're a nice young man. I can tell already. We're going to have a lot of fun this year, and I think you'll be in a lot of those post race press conferences with Sean and I. So it'll be good to catch up when we see you in Atlanta.
I definitely hope so. Definitely hope so. Hope that's the way that we're going to continue like this. And Paul and Sean, just thank you guys again for having me, and thank you everyone that's listened to this. And I hope to see everyone in Moto America Series this year.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.